Welcome to the Mystic Hour with Clare Stone and Nathaniel Warren.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of the Mystic Hour and of course of the Mystical Chats. I'm one of your hosts, Nathaniel Warren, joined as always in the studio by Clare Stone. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you for having me.
We always say how much we get excited for these, and
Yes.
I am really excited for this. Of course, the Mystical Chat is the show where I basically just get to pose you questions every single week, throw you in the spotlight a little bit and say, tell me about this. And then basically you just take the realms and take the reins and, explain the mystical universe to us.
Okay.
So obviously you don't know what we're going to talk about today.
Right.
It's just completely off the top of my head. But the first thing that I sort of wanted to go into, the first topic, was the idea that everyone is familiar with of a gut feeling or instinct.
Yes.
Right? Now, everyone knows what a gut feeling is. You know what it means to, believe in something and just not have a reason behind it. Using your heart, not your head, essentially. All these different phrases.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is whether you believe you have a heightened sense of intuition, or whether that intuition comes after consulting with spirit or, consulting with tarot, using your psychic abilities to see psychically. Or do you believe that you have that sort of intuition just into you anyway?
I think it's all of it, really. So when I read someone, on a normal day, I'll use the cards or I'll read their energy, or I'm reading the spirit's energy in the room at that time and using that intuition, they're basically giving me the information. On a kind of a different type of day, if I'm on my own and someone's for instance, someone's talking about something and saying, I'm in a new relationship at the moment, or this is going this way or that way, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work.
Right.
My gut feeling, my intuition there is I would say stronger than most, whereas anyone else wouldn't care, or it'd be really in your face if you knew there was something wrong. Mine goes a bit deeper, and it always has, and it's always been a bit strange. I've always found it a bit weird. Some people, they'll get it now and again in their life where they'll just be like, I knew that was going to happen, or I had a gut feeling I shouldn't have gone to that party that night. Whereas I get it every day.
Right.
Every day, it will run across, or it will be in readings, it will just be even ramp up that heightenedness even more. When you use cards, or if you're using spirit and stuff to give you messages, it's a bit like cheating really, because I'm not doing it just sat there myself. I'm like, oh, I'll just use cards or whatever. Just I'll just do it. I'll just do it the easy peasy way, rather than looking into my soul and doing it that way. And it works quicker as well when you got loads of clients in a day. But on a normal everyday, if we go out at night, or like I did the other night, and you see or hear things and stuff, and you're like, I don't trust that. Or if I don't want to go somewhere, I get that quite a lot. If I feel like I don't want to go, there's going to be trouble, something's going to happen, I'm not going to go, not going to do that. People don't use it enough, I would say, intuition. Yeah. And that's why things go wrong so much for them. I guess, you have to learn lessons and stuff in life. You can't just go your life going, I'm not going to do that because it's I feel like this is going to happen. You just got to, live your life. But, I don't think some people use it enough when it comes to relationships, for instance, or in certain other situations with families or, friends and stuff. You think, no, you've done that again now. You've not listened to your intuition. I
suppose once there's a conflict of interest between your head and your heart, then that's when people start to not rely on it as much.
Yeah. And you get a lot of that in readings as well. When people come and see me, they're like, I don't know why that happened again. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I was like, well, why did you do it then? Whereas I wouldn't. I feel like I'm strong enough. I know my intuition enough that I wouldn't do that. Obviously I'm going to make mistakes and things like that, but that's part of my journey and my path, but I know how to correct that. Whereas some people don't. It's just even spirit, when I do readings, are looking, I'm like, oh, this person, I'm giving them this information and they're not listening to me, so I just give up on them. It just feels a bit like that sometimes. But intuition I've always used throughout my life, and my gut feeling about things. I talked about this on Pandora's Box a while ago. That's on YouTube as well. Where my nan's next door neighbour, they were all saying, oh, I think she's gone on holiday, and I'm like, no, she's not. She's dead. she's dead in the house. They're like, no, she's not. Don't be so ridiculous. I was like, I've got a gut feeling, and my intuition, my psychicness is like giving this to me. So they looked through the letterbox and she was on the floor, and my nan was like, oh my God, like that's really strange. I feel like, but I just thought everyone had that. I thought everyone's gut feeling was that heightened and that strong. Like some people might think that in passing in their mind, whereas for me it's so intense I've got to go with it and I have to say it. A lot of mediums get that, where they feel like they need to purge quite a lot with what they say, like not in a horrible way, but they're like, I need to say this to this person because just to move on so I don't feel weird or like odd or anything. I would never do that in public, but it just makes you feel rubbish like if you don't say something. But yeah, I do with my family all the time. Like if I feel like something's not right, I've done that like before with my dad once. I was like, no, you're not going to America. And he's like, I am. I booked my ticket. I'm going. I'm like, no, you're not. I can just intuitively see that you're not by your energy
That
right
must
now.
be so annoying from his perspective.
And he didn't
just
go.
being like, well, I guess I'm not going then.
COVID happened and he didn't go.
Yeah.
He would look forward to this trip for ages, and he was like, how did you know? I was like, my intuition, my gut feeling is telling me you're not. But then I guess that could be a psychic thing, not necessarily like a normal person thing.
So you rely on your gut instinct more than you rely on like head decisions, I suppose, then?
Yeah, I would say so.
Is it quite frustrating from your perspective? Because, I mean, everyone's human. You're going to use bits of both, right? But is there ever times where sometimes you'll think something, you know, you have a feeling that something isn't a good idea to go and do, and then for some reason it looks perfect on paper, or, you know, you think, well, you know what, I'm going to put that aside because my head's telling me this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then if that goes wrong, you must feel quite frustrated, not trusting your own gut instinct.
All the time, like you feel like your head's into play, or other people persuade you to do things and go, yeah, maybe it's weird because I've been a psychic like since I was about 5 really, but still I will go with someone when they're going through with their head, like to say, oh no, we should, like Josh for instance, like my boyfriend, like I just think he'll be like, no, don't be silly, let's do this. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll use my head, that's just silly, right? And then I'll go and I think that was rubbish, shouldn't have done that, like, and then I just feel rubbish afterwards and just think, oh God, I was right all along. Like, why doesn't anyone listen to me? I'm a psychic.
yeah.
That's what I say all the time. I'm like, obviously, because I'm a psychic, I'm more right than you are. So, actually, technically, that is using my head because I'm always right. So, yeah, that is annoying. Yeah, because some, you know, in life, around, I would say, normal people, not necessarily normal people, but I'd say, you know, those that don't believe in spiritual things, you have to use your head a lot of the time because, you know, you can't get on in life, can you, if you don't use your head? You know, your intuition, plays a part, but only like some of the time, I guess. Like, you know, you still have to go to work or whatever. Like when I used to do work like full time, you know, before doing tarot in full time, there was a day I thought, oh no, don't feel right today. Don't think I should go. I thought, well, I can't because then you get paid. So I thought, well, I have to have a rubbish day to get paid, even though my intuition's telling me don't go because someone annoying is going to come in today. You know, you can't live your life by that.
Yeah.
But if something really dangerous, I thought, that's really dangerous, or I don't like that, or I don't want to get on that plane, or then I always listen to my intuition.
Almost like Final Fantasy, like.
Yeah, over my head, all the time. I always listen to my intuition way over my head when it's stuff like that. But when it's like everyday stuff, it's like, oh, I have to use my head today, even though I hate it. It's just like that, really. But yeah, everyone does that day, so yeah, so that's what I do.
So to swap the theme of what we're talking about completely here, this is maybe something we should have spoken about before the festive season, because obviously now we are past Christmas.
Yes.
Of course, we spent Christmas Day together.
Yeah.
And a very nice. Happy Christmas to everyone that
Christmas.
is listening. Even though it's already passed, I hope you had a good one. But one of my questions, right, was obviously Christmas is a time that is filled with joy and festivities and sharing time with your loved ones. But something that has become more apparent to me in recent years, probably because I spend more time around Callum, I've realised more that you still have that ghost stories and that spirituality linked intrinsically with Christmas and with the festive season. So I was wondering if you know why that is as a psychic.
Well, it can be loads of different reasons. It's because it's obviously getting colder and darker. We get the shortest day in December as well, so it feels more spooky and things like that. Also, I think at this time of year, we're always remembering people.
Right.
You know, that have passed and stuff that are no longer with us. So it's like we want to know something else is out there. Even if we're not necessarily thinking, you know, telling stories about people that passed. We're like, we'll do a ghost story because it's like it's real. you know, and also this time of year as well, you do get more deaths. I definitely notice that as a medium. People that passed away is always December, January, February, March. That's our season. That's like peak season over there, in heaven or whatever you want to call it, or hell. That's when they go collecting. So that's why a lot of people always think like to tell a ghost story and stuff, because it seems like, oh, old, you know, Mrs., you know, whatever died in Victorian times on Christmas around that time, whatever. And I thought, technically that could be true because a lot of people do. Yeah. Christmas time is actually peak season for passings.
There seems to be a lot of passings around Christmas.
Yeah, there always is. And that's why I think a lot of people do tell lots of ghost stories. And again, that remembering type thing, they want to feel it's real, even if it's spooky or scares them. Yeah. They get that. And also you get, you know, Yule and a lot of the old mystical kind of festively times as well. And yeah, so all that incorporated together. It's like so like that. And also a lot of the ghost stories you get like in Dickens times and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's Victorian times. It was really difficult in those times, and you wanted to believe there was something else out there, even again if it was spooky. And again, peak season for deaths and Victorian times, it's starting to get really cold, people getting ill and then they pass away. And yeah, it's really, really high. And, you know, obviously Christmas Carol and stuff like that, where he's visited by ghosts and things like that. You get a lot of that with spirituality as well. Like with what I do, they usually come back to say, behave, or you'll be like us.
Right. Have you ever had like a Marley coming through with chains?
No, not yet. Oh God, no. Mine are just more like, I'm leaving her alone at Christmas because she'll just want to ask us something, so I'm just leaving her. Mine are the opposite. They'll just say, no, we're having 2 weeks off.
Yeah. They're on holiday.
Yeah, but people do usually get visited around Christmas time a lot anyway, because it's that time of the year because they want to be remembered to spirit. Yeah, I noticed that a lot in readings.
So do you get more activity around this time yourself as well?
Yeah. So when people always say to me, oh, it's October, like, you know, your biggest season because it's like spooky season. I'm like, no, December's the best time. December, January is the best time you want to get a spirit come through because it's near that peak kind of celebratory time. Yeah. And spirits love a party. So yeah, they will come in like more frequently around then. So yeah, you do get that. And I get visited quite a lot around Christmas and stuff. Like, the last few weeks have just been insane. I was saying to Josh, I'm usually, you know, you see spirits pop up now and again. Yeah. Or you see outlines, and in readings I'm mainly seeing outlines or their energy. You just feel their energy. But at the minute I'm seeing them clear as day constantly. Up and down, like on the road, in here, like everywhere. Like you can see people. And I just think, oh, maybe it's just Christmas is more heightened than it usually is. So I'll have to check in with myself about February and think, well, okay, this is still happening, so maybe my development has increased more, or it's actually just like they're just visiting, saying Happy Christmas, and then going back again. Yeah. So it's difficult. Like for as a psychic, you think, is it me, or is it just the time of the year? I don't know. Like
I suppose naturally December, since it's coming to the end of the year as well, it's a natural time for reflection anyway, isn't it? And looking back on not just the year that's passed, but then also the years that have passed in previous years. Yeah. So I suppose it makes sense that you would be reflecting more, looking back on people that have passed around that time. Yeah. So maybe willing them into our world a bit more.
Yeah, and when I do readings for people this time of year, it's like they are willing them to come. Yeah. Like, so when I see people in December, it's mainly either I would say relationship breakdowns in December. Yeah. Or it's because of people who've passed the previous year, that December, maybe January time. So they think, oh, maybe they'll come through. And they do, because I see them like a day or two before and I'll think, what are you doing here? Like I can just see like a bloke, like I don't know, like just stood in the corner of the room, and I'm like, oh, leave me alone till tomorrow. Like, but yeah, they're willing them, and like constantly I want to hear from them, I want to see them, or sometimes they don't come through at all. Right. That can be difficult for people. I had one the other day, it's like she was expecting someone and I was like, they're not here. They're not coming through. Like, and that does happen. Like, sometimes they might be with other family members as well. Not in a horrible way, but it's like they might need more support than you need. Right. So that can happen too. Or some people get really upset around Christmas because they feel like if they're very spiritual, like, I can't feel them. I don't think they're here. It's like, they're maybe like they're on holiday somewhere. It doesn't, it's not a diss. It's like, you know, if I go to a mum's one year for Christmas, but then I go to my mum's the next year, that's what spirits do as well. So it's not like I'm being offensive to your mum by going to my mum. It's like, I'll just go to your mum's the year out. You know, you swap around, don't you? And that's literally what spirits do. Yeah. They'll swap around different family members, or just say, do you know what? I don't want to see anyone this Christmas. I just want a break. Like, so I always say to people, don't take it as an offence if your mates had all their spirits come through, because they might not get that the year after.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they do very prominently. Like, I like all the old Victorian-y type stories and stuff. That's when, like, spiritualism and stuff like that, the church and everything started going, like, full pelt a lot, like, end of Victorian era, going to early 1900s. So that's why you do get a lot more of that too, like especially like around the First World War as well. Like a lot of people died and they wanted like something to cling on to. So you get a lot more stories around that time as well as other than Victorian times. And that's like when a lot of my family joined like the Spiritualist Church and things like that. Yeah, because it's people like they've lost and everything. It's just more prominent. But yeah, the Victorian ones are good. So, like, their white gowns floating around.
Yeah. Feels very gothic.
With you. Yeah, it's that gothic era because there was so much death around that time. It's like no wonder. Like if you were just in the ground and you died and then nothing happened, it's like, well, that's not a very good story, is it? Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, spirits are there, but I just think, you know, they ramped it up a bit in Victorian times. Spirits don't come and visit and, you know, chuck things at the room at you and, see stuff like that, or just stand in the corner, like, beckoning you out into the other side. Or a bit like Wuthering Heights, that's one of my favourite books, like, where she comes back as a ghost and comes through the window and tries to get him out. That is just like, they probably wouldn't do that.
Right. That's just sort of hammed up a little bit for entertainment.
That's why a lot of people as well aren't that into spirits. Well, I can understand.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, that's just like so far-fetched. I'm like, yeah, it is kind of true. It is a bit far-fetched. Like they wouldn't, but like some might, you know, you might get the odd one that's a bit weird. But then others are just kind of casual, really. They just sit down with everyone and just be quiet and not do like, they won't like smash your window in and say, come with me over the moors. Like, it doesn't really work like that. But, so that's what they're like.
Well, I'm loving this line of conversation, so we're going to continue this. But as the spirits do over Christmas, we're going to take a break, ladies and gents.
The Mystic Hour. Stars, spirits, and souls.
Welcome, everyone, back to the Mystic Hour, where of course we're doing our mystical chat. Before we had 2 tracks, we were speaking all about ghost stories, all about Christmas, and the spirituality that's sort of intrinsically linked with it. So I wanted to continue on with that chat, but less of the Christmas stuff and more focusing on the ghost stories aspect of it. Because I, like I said to you the other day, was with friends and we were sharing some ghost stories. A lot of fun, one of my favourite things to do, because I feel like once you get into that flow of telling each other stories, it just passes the time really nicely. And I think there is something in the atmosphere that changes. Now, that's the bit that I wanted to ask you a little bit on, because I know you said before, for example, when we did the Pandora's Box podcast, you can feel spirits gathering and watching. And do they like to be talked about, spirits? Yeah,
some of them do. Yeah, I'm not, you know, if I didn't talk about certain spirits all the time, you know, they'd be like, oh, why isn't Claire talking about it anymore? Like ones I know that have passed over. But yeah, and some of them just don't mind just chilling out. They know they're going to see you again, so they don't, you know, mind too much. You know, I always say to people, as long as you remember their birthday, they're quite happy. They don't really like death days and stuff like that, spirits, just because it can be traumatic and it can also be bad energy on you as well sometimes. That negativity like festering over. But yeah, birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that they like, or you remember them on that day. I usually say at least it was once a year. You know, they're fine, and they know that you kind of thinking about them in the back of your mind as well, or you remember, or sometimes I'll put things in your way to remind you of them. Right. So I get that quite a lot of like, oh my God, my friend used to like that. My nan used to like that. Like, I get that quite a bit. And yeah, normal people get that as well. Like they'll just think, oh, that reminds me of my nan, or that reminds me of my mum.
And they're almost placing that in your way.
Yeah, and they put that just to like trigger you.
Yeah,
to say, oh, yeah, I remember now. And yeah, so they do that. But it's not a bad thing. Like if you're really busy and you think, oh my God, I've forgotten about them. You don't need to worry about that. Like they don't think, how dare you? Like they've got enough to do over there. They haven't got time to be like to be thinking that it's their time to have a rest until you die, and then it's like, oh, now we've got to be busy again now. Like it annoys them. So yeah, I always tell just people like, yeah, things will pop up if they want you to talk or whatever, and if they don't, then you're just kind of happy as you are. So yeah, it's fine.
Interesting. I almost wondered if part of the reason that myself back in focus for the camera as well. I almost wondered if part of the reason that the atmosphere changes a little bit when you are telling ghost stories is because spirits are listening in, and maybe they're playing into that. Maybe they want to change the atmosphere a little bit, and they want to make you feel a little bit more creeped out, or a little bit more like you're connecting to the story. Would that be an accurate thing to say?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I've had that before. I was talking about my great gran once. We were all like sat together, me, my nan, my granddad, and my dad, and my mum, and that. And they had these huge like fans on, and we were just talking about it, and then the fan blew up.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, "Why are you doing that for? That's really annoying." But so you get things like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like not in a horrible way. Like that's why I don't do seances and Ouijas and stuff like that, because you do ramp that energy up like massively. So you're not just getting your spirits in, you're getting anybody else in as well. So and they really play into that. Like your family, when sometimes people talk about them and you don't get anything at all, just because like, well, I'm not playing your games, and then they'll just go off. But so I don't do anything like dodgy like that. Just because they'll all come through, and you'll get more than a fan blowing up. You'll probably get your whole house burning down. Like so, I just leave it alone. So I don't have that. But you get those types of things all the time.
As someone that's obviously so experienced with spirits and with the paranormal, I suppose. When you hear other people tell ghost stories, right? Can you instantly decipher if it's just not true?
Yeah.
Like, can you just hear if someone tells something, you can go, that's not right, or maybe sometimes when someone says something, you go, oh, that could have a bit of truth in it.
Yeah, all the time. But I don't want to be like a bit of a big head. Right. I've had that before. Callum, who's on the show, like know what I'm probably talking about with this, but hopefully nobody else does.
Right.
So someone was telling me once that they saw these ghosts, and like, oh my god, I felt like I was walking through somewhere and I saw these people that had died and all the rest of it. I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, we were on like, something at the time. And I was like, well, obviously that wasn't a ghost then.
Yeah.
That's just your mind being warped by what you were taking.
Yeah.
So that is not true whatsoever. But so we were kind of like sat there, like even the people that aren't really into that type of thing were like, I think you were just high. I don't think that was. I don't think that was a ghost at all. And then other times you get things where people are like, something moved, no one else is in the house, and that like, that's probably a spirit. So they'll probably do that, or they'll just feel like they've woken up in the middle of the night and they've seen someone and stuff like that. And I'm like, that probably is true, because usually that's like their playtime. So you probably are seeing things like that. So I do believe those more, like when people say, that are more realistic, like things have moved, or they just see them randomly pop up and then they go again, and stuff like that. So
I think it's quite easy as someone that doesn't like continuously see spirit to rationalize what you've seen or what may have happened whenever something does happen. But would you say that you believe most people have probably had in some way an interaction with spirit at some point?
Yeah.
Like whether it's just something, like you said, a little bit weird, maybe something moved slightly. Would you say most people will have experienced that at some point in their life?
A lot of people won't believe it, obviously. They've seen it. They think, no, it must be in the wind or something that moved it. But most do. A lot of children do. And then they kind of grow out of it type thing. Like babies sometimes, especially, they'll be looking into space and you're like, what are they looking at? Like, there's nothing they could be looking at. And I'm like, it's a spirit.
Do you have like a guess in your head of why that may be?
Yeah, you're just more open to it.
Yeah.
So as babies, or even pets as well, pets are really good. You're open to it. You're not influenced by the world yet.
Yeah.
As soon as you get influenced by the world, you start doubting it.
Right.
And you think, no, like that's like, I can rationalize that or whatever. But like for me, it's more stronger. So like if you had an experience, you'd probably be more like, no, I can rationalize that, because it's not as heightened for you. Whereas to me, I'm like, no, I'm investigating that. I need to look deeper into that, or I'll call upon them and say, what do you want? Whereas a normal person wouldn't do that. But so you're just more open to everything as a younger child or a pet or whatever. And then a lot of kids grow out of it by the age of about 9 or 10 sometimes, whereas mine just kept on going. Like it just got stronger and stronger. So like, and even though I watch things on telly or whatever, it wasn't like that. It was very different. So that's how you can separate it. And also having my parents ask me a million questions about it as well. Like the FBI are in my house. That it's not real. It's real. It's just spirit. So that's how you know.
That's so interesting. Me and Callum were speaking about this recently with Drew as well, and I sort of ask Callum and Drew the question of when they were young, could they remember like having a lot? Because I can definitely remember as a kid having a lot of weird things happen that I'd be like, that was weird, or like you'd see like a figure in the corner of your room just watching over you and stuff like that. And I can remember that being like quite a consistent thing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I suppose now that, like you say, now that I've grown up, you tend to doubt that more. You tend to go, well, that can't have been real. That could have just been like a childlike imagination.
Yeah.
But what I found really interesting about that when I was speaking to Callum is that Callum said he experienced the same thing where, you know, he had a lot more activity going on in that sense when he was younger. But Drew said he'd never like experienced any of that.
Yeah.
So do you think it can just depend on the person?
Depends on the person, how heightened you are or not. Some people, I guess, like, knowing Drew, not in like a mean way or anything like that, it's like he's always thinking of different things all the time. It's like very busy in the mind. So yeah, you probably wouldn't. Like it probably just goes, it's like happening, but it's just probably going over your head. Like a lot of people do get that. They don't get anything. Or as I say, oh, maybe, you know, they're not liking you as a child. You know, maybe they're
Yeah,
annoying. I don't know. Maybe they're the only ones that come to you, like, if they like you. So yeah, you can get that as well. Like if sometimes they're just like, oh, I'll just leave them alone. I don't want to mess around. Or it can depend on your family dynamic who's died as well. If you had if parents, for instance, or grandparents had a very close relationship or a trauma connected to someone that has passed away, they're more likely to visit you. If not, if it's kind of like your grandparents are still there, your great grandparents are still hanging around, or you just didn't have that relationship, they probably might not even visit you. Probably just be like, oh, don't really know them. Like I'll just see them later on when they die when they're 90 or whatever, and then that'll be it. But with me, it's just very intense, like all the time, because maybe because the amount that crossed over by the time I was born as well, so that those kind of links maybe. But yeah, it was never spoken about though when I was younger or anything like that. Like, but it was just I was seeing things, telling me stuff, and then I'd tell my parents, my grandparents, they'd link that up together, so I knew. Whereas I think if it was something I wasn't too sure about, then they probably like, no, I think you just imagine that thing's a bit strange what you're seeing, but no, all linked up, and then you'd see randoms in between and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how it was really for me.
Interesting. Well, we've come to a part in the show where, like I said to you earlier, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot now. Because of all the themes we've been talking about and ghost stories today, I thought it'd be quite fun if you maybe had a ghost story or two to tell on the show. Yeah. So that'd be a good place to go into now if you've got any.
Well, as I said to you before, I've got about 1,000 because I do it every day and it's my job. The amount of like random stuff.
A ghost story is just a normal story to you.
Yeah. There was one creepy one when I was younger, when I was at home living with my parents. I was kept seeing spirit all the time, every night, and it was always a woman in a black cloak all the time walking around the room, and I was just like, maybe I'm imagining it, I don't know. Then weird things start happening, crucifixes start bending and cracking. Every time I wear crucifixes now, even, they snap. These earrings I've got in right now, they've been broken about 1 million times, I'm about to fix them.
Wow.
And it just kept happening, and I had a really nice necklace my nan got me, snapped right in half. Don't know how. It was like solid, like silver, you couldn't even get through it. So my mum asked a medium to come to the house. Even though I could see things, I was little at the time, so you know. So she came to the house and I was like, I don't know if I can go upstairs. Like there's something up there I don't like. And so she walked up the stairs and she started screaming and stuff. She saw a woman up there. She said, I've never seen anything so horrific in my entire life. Whoa. She said this woman's face was just completely, like she had like leprosy or something, like all over her face. And she was like trying to hide her face with a cloak.
Whoa.
And she said she doesn't like religion, even though she didn't know anything, this woman. She hates religion and stuff like that. And she said, well, look at all these crucifixes that have been like snapped in half, like that I had. And she's trying to communicate with me. Like she's just saying, like, you know, is Claire like psychic or whatever? And she was saying, yeah, like Claire can like see spirits and stuff. And then after that, she came downstairs and she was doing a reading for my mom, like with cards and things. And all of a sudden, this woman came in again and then started strangling her.
Whoa!
Yeah, and she couldn't breathe. She was choking to death nearly at the table.
That's crazy.
And my mum at the time, because she's like, my mum was loving it. Like it sounds horrible. She was like, "This is the best reading I've ever had in my life."
Yeah.
But not even like, you know, some mediums overreact and are like, "Oh my god, I could feel it here," and it's like, you know, choking me. My mum said she was actually near enough suffocating. She was like bright red in the face, like. And my auntie that was there at the time, they were let to try and snap her out of it, like because spirit can like take you over sometimes. And then it went and she said, I never want to go like up there again, ever again. Like it was like that bad. But with me, it was fine. Like, she was fine with me. She just walked around the room and was just chatting and stuff.
So why do you think she was in that house? Do you think she lived there?
She lived there
point?
probably
Right.
on the ground it's been built on, because the house was built in the 60s. So obviously she wouldn't have worn that stuff then. But yeah, I think it, like I say this a lot to people, like, I'm in a new build. I'm like, a new build doesn't matter. Like you could be built on some kind of ground that something's been buried, either an animal or a person at some point, or even down the road, and then they can cross your path and come in your house. So yeah, that's probably why it was there. Like she's like buried either near or was living there at the time. Has just come back to the house, but on top of our house instead. But yeah, that was not funny, but it was a bit funny.
That's creepy. That's a really good story.
See, anyone else would just be like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Whereas we were all just laughing about it, going, oh my God, that's really funny. And then I've been strangled before as well. Yeah, it's not funny when that happens to yourself.
No. It's only funny when it's a different medium.
Yeah. And then like I've had stories as well where spirits have come and switched things off. That's been quite freaky, like having like things going and then it's like switch it off. Like that, so you know someone's in the room, or like lights completely going down. Or I was watching telly the other day and I was thinking of my friend that died, because I thought, Yvonne would have loved this programme. And I had the light on. I never have the light on, ever, because I'm like a tightwad, so I don't like spending money on electric. And the lights just went all the way down and then they went up again. And I was like, oh, that's her. That's cool.
Oh, nice.
Anybody else though would have been like, oh my God, like this is horrible. So you get stuff like that all the time. And then the other ghosty things I get, like seeing people on the side of the road that have been killed. I get that quite a lot. Yeah, and then what else happened? Yeah, there was strangling one that I had. A lady, I seen her before at her house, and she was saying to me, you know, I'm going through all these terrible times and all the rest of it. And, you know, and then she came back to see me. She's really happy. She's really, you know, everything was great in her life. And I was like, oh, this would be a good reading. So started it. And then this guy came through in the reading. And I was like, he stinks of smoke. There's something like not right. He's just too strong. I could see him clear as day. It was just horrible. I didn't, like, the feeling was like, you just felt sick. And then he started going like that on my throat, like putting his hands around my throat, and trying to choke me, and I couldn't stop coughing. And I said, I'm really sorry. We were like 10 minutes towards the end. I was like, I'm gonna have to stop your reading. It's like, I can't have this person in my house. And she said, oh, that is my stepdad, and he abused me as a child. So he came through and he was trying to strangle me because he didn't want me to tell her anything. So yeah, I thought that was really spooky and scary. And yeah, things moving around the house as well. You get that quite a lot, or with them visiting you in dreams as well. Then you wake up and you feel like it's been real, where you sat with them and stuff, like chatting.
When you do communicate them and speak to them, is it the same as just speaking to a normal person, or is it any different?
Yeah,
right,
it's exactly the same. Yeah, usually I'd ask them to talk in my head.
Yeah,
just because they do talk normally in your ear, but it just sounds really creepy.
Right.
That's like a ghost story type thing. Like that's like very Victorian, you know, like how you get in like the Victorian like Dickens type things where they're really spooky. How they talk, that is literally how it is. Whoever wrote that Dickens like must have seen something, because it's very, or like the people that did these films, it's very accurate. Yeah, so I've had that before where I've been asleep in bed, lying down, and then all of a sudden someone's like, hello Claire, in my ear. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm just screaming because it's just like some random stranger in your
Is it
house
like a little bit like glitchy?
Yeah, it's because they're going from their world to the next.
Yeah.
So it sounds a bit like a broken radio, a little bit. But like it's a bit like someone's been smoking about 100 a day.
Right.
It sounds like with that as well, a bit like croaky as it comes through.
Hey, Claire.
Yeah, like it's just, oh my God, it's horrible. Yeah, so I asked them to put things up in my head, like, or boards or whatever when they're there. Or like, it's a bit like sign language or whatever when they're talking, or lip reading when they do it. So yeah, I do that. Or like some spirits I get through don't even speak English.
Right.
So
that must be quite hard.
This is another weird thing. I don't know if other mediums get this, but I'll read people, like I get a lot of Portuguese clients, and their family aren't English. So they're like, how can you read them? Because their first language isn't English. I'm like, I don't know how I can understand them, because I don't speak Portuguese now, and I don't speak any other language, maybe a bit German, but yeah, I don't. But I understand them. I understand them fully, and then when I'm relaying the messages, they totally understand it, what I'm talking about, and they're like, how do you know that? That's really strange. I'm like, how can I interpret someone in spirit but not down here? It's such a weird
almost
thing.
like they're sending you the message rather than even like having to say it to you. They're just like giving you the information.
It's like translating it instant.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool. Like I wish I could do that. Like if I was like abroad,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just so I don't understand how I know, but I do know. And
that's
then
so cool.
yeah, they do that quite a lot as well. But yeah, some like spooky stuff.
Well, that has been the whole show.
Oh.
We have used up all our time, but I've got to say that was a really, really good one. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me once again, Claire, in the studio. And yeah, don't forget, if you're listening on the radio, to check us out on our YouTube, where we, of course, have all the visuals going out too. That's on Aspen Weight Radio YouTube channel. And yeah, until Tuesday or Sunday, when we'll be back doing this again on a replay, of course. And then on Tuesday, we'll be doing Tarot Tuesdays, as always. So we hope to see you then. Goodbye.